Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hopefully, you're having a great weekend and Sunday. And you can see me. Oh, I see somebody can see me. Unannounced live stream. Anyways, thank you so much. I have a few minutes until maybe 6:15, 6:20. So I have like 45 minutes. And I wanted to jump on and maybe chat with some of you guys. If you want, you can call me. Let me see how you can do that. Invite. Yes, I'm gonna share the link. So here it is. There it is, and you can call me here if you want, and we can talk about anything you want. But yeah, I called this live stream "Why Are You a Muslim?" because I think this is a very crucial topic to understand. It doesn't matter if you're born or converted Muslim. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about this because I've noticed, I haven't noticed, but I think like if you have good foundations in why are you doing whatever you're doing, I think that's good enough. So we need to go back and realize like why are we Muslim? Where is it just because you were born into it, or did you choose Islam? And why did you choose Islam? Why are you not Buddhist? Tell me, man. Or why are you not Hindu? What about Christians? What about nothing? Why are you not atheist? And this is crucial because like most people will not go into lengths about analyzing their own belief system. So I just wanted to kind of touch on this and see if we can have a good chat. First of all, assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam, Nima. I'm in Prague already, back home, and I have 3 more weeks here, as I've just realized. I thought it's only two, but 3 more weeks still in the city, and then I'm leaving to Slovakia. So that's my thing. But today has been really weird. I've been thinking a lot about my childhood. I don't know, like I'm 30, so I might look young, but I'm like old man. And I remember when I was like 6, 7, 8, and I was thinking about my childhood friends. Um, I don't know why. It was just like for hours. I was just kind of thinking about them. I haven't seen them for like 20 years, but it's something strange, right? Like when you think about the time when you were growing up, between the ages maybe of 5, 6 until like 12, 13, that time when you were kind of like innocent, you didn't have like puberty, you didn't look at women or men or something, right? You were just kind of not pure completely, but you were a child. You didn't care. You didn't have this responsibility. And it's an interesting time in our lives because it goes by very fast. But when you're a child, in that moment, it feels like it's gonna be there forever. So I remember when I was like 7 or 8, I was like, man, this is gonna be forever until I'm 10, and then I'm until I'm 12. Oh my gosh! And then until I'm 18, I can do this. But that's 8 more years. That's an eternity. And now I'm 30, and I'm like, well, by the age of 35, I can do this. And 5 years, this is just nothing. But no, it's not nothing. It's 5 years. It's in the entire generation's life, maybe. So it's just something I've been thinking about. Anyways, tell me, why are you Muslim if you are? And tell me the most confusing thing you found about Islam. I can tell you right now, it's nothing crazy, but the biggest kind of problem is, and this is what people kind of miss in the beginning. The non-Muslims, they ask you about which sect are you from, so which Islam are you following, and what is it about. So it's like my uncle was like, so are you Salaf, are you this, like he knows these terms and he doesn't even know what Islam means. I'm like, subhanallah, go back to the basics. You don't care about these sects. But it was very confusing. It still very much is to understand where I belong. Like I have like a general idea, but for a convert, these questions are so useless to find out which madhab you follow or whatever. It is important, but like it's not important for the first 2 years. I think I'm in my second year, and I still think like just getting the basics is pretty difficult. And for me to now focus on something else, it would be crazy. So that's just kind of the most confusing part about it. Just understanding the scope of the variety of Muslim expressions of faith, and understanding where are the balances and limits. So where which is shirk, which is kufr. Like understanding the dynamics of like, okay, well, why are Shias not? What are they doing wrong? Like what's, and then understanding like what's the right path. But what about, and just balancing it out as a convert is pretty difficult because you don't have any historical tradition to follow. You don't have anyone geographically to follow. So you kind of have to pick and choose whatever you want. So that's kind of crazy. But other than this was the most confusing thing, and it still is. And I think for people looking outside, they are like also like looking mostly at which part of Islam are you from, and that's not good to do. But anyways, tell me, guys, why are you Muslim, and which thing did you find or are you finding confusing? Eh. Love the thoughts. Thanks. I'll pray Maghrib and jump on. Hey, that's cool. Let's do it. Generally, I feel too anxious to come. At the same time, want to challenge myself. Come on, man. No hard feelings. Worst thing that happens, I'll delete the stream. It's gonna live forever. Um. Anyways, so yeah, I have yeah, I've been thinking about it lately, and it's funny. It's funny this question. Why are you a Muslim? Because you're gonna get asked that question quite a lot, especially where I am. It's very difficult to answer because people are like, well, why did you, what, you're Muslim, what? And then you have to explain like from the beginning. You have to go back to the basics that life is meaningless ultimately without any higher authority outside of yourself. And I was just looking to find solutions to society's problems and find my own meaning in life and stuff like that. And I realized there must be creator of the universe. Otherwise, it's kind of like pointless, and it wouldn't even make sense to explain everything in this world because without a creator, basically you're saying everything is random. But we know from observation everything is not random, and there is a, let's say, guided um, process in this universe, whether it comes from chaos first or order or anything like that. But there's a design here, and it's simple. Design can't come from non-design. It's intelligence must be behind that. And so the question is just to figure out why Islam. But yeah, I think we have to approach it from the very beginning. Anyways, I see someone joined, so I'm gonna let you in and let's have a chat. Assalamu alaikum. Nazmin, can you hear me?
Yeah, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you hear
How-
me?
yes, how are you doing?
Alhamdulillah. How about you?
Good, good. Alhamdulillah. So, do you have any question or any comments you'd like to say?
Um, no, I don't have any questions, but I'd like to tell a little bit about my journey.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm born Muslim, um, but as I grow up, I didn't practice much. In my
Mhm.
university, I really don't do salah, but I do like for Jum'ah prayer, but I didn't, stay in doing the 5 daily prayer until I go on to um, work.
Yeah.
When I was in my working career, I was like, Okay, um, I think I need to go back to find Islam, what Islam is, or I try to understand a little bit about Islam. And as as I you know I go back to do the 5 daily prayer, but it's not like uh you know try to jump into doing all the 5 daily prayer, right? Because
Uh-huh.
I was scrolling back bit by bit. But then I think that Allah wanted to test me, and He really tested my faith. Eventually, I think I'm making dua, I think, and as I'm making dua and I'm doing the work, I thought that Allah didn't answer my prayer. So that's why I get a bit of doubt inside myself.
Okay.
So yeah, after, but I still didn't give up, you know, believing in God or believing in Allah and all that. I just tried to search a relevant answer for me, for myself. And then I was involved. I'm not involved, but I'm looking into YouTube, right? I saw Muslim abroad trying, trying to understand how their faith works, and how they're dealing with Islam, because I think that I know that Islamophobia like grew inside the West, and Europe especially, and also in US. So I like to know how Muslims, you know um,
Mm.
practice their religion, right? So uh, and I found a lot of debates, especially in the UK. I think you know what I'm talking about. Uh, so
Yeah.
yeah,
So where are you from?
I'm from Malaysia.
Malaysia.
Yeah, you recognize me, right? I think you recognize me from my profile picture. I didn't put my profile picture here.
Ah, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Malaysia.
yeah,
So why did you? So what happened? You mentioned you went to university or something, and you stopped praying. Like you were born like your parents raised you Muslim, but then you kind of stopped. So why do you think you stopped practicing? You know, like the reason?
yeah. One of the thing is that I think a lot of questions in mind, but eventually I try to neglect those questions. Trying to just, let just me stay be a Muslim but not practicing. But then I've heard like, why we need to practice even though we are, if we are being good. I thought that being good is just good enough for me, just good enough, and not pray, because eventually people, and started thinking like God doesn't punish those who do good, right? But then again, that question just I just get answered from those people who are very knowledgeable, right? So yeah, eventually being good is not enough, and if I'm doing good without doing salah, Allah didn't count my good. That's what I got, and then slowly, bit by bit, I try to do salah, and of course, Allah said that those who believe doesn't count their belief if they have not been tested. So yeah, I've been tested, my faith. So I was looking back. I was looking into the debate, and then suddenly, like, um, Christianity isn't big here actually. There's Buddhist and also Hinduism, but Christianity is not like that big. But eventually, I didn't know anything about Christianity. So, but then, um, just just like, grow in my mind the I think shaitan just tried to instill inside me that Jesus is God and so on. So I just look into Christianity also. It's not like I'm learning it, but I want to know what Christianity is. So I learn it through those debates that happen in Speaker's Corner. So bit by bit, that my my faith in Islam just grow inside me. So it's and then along the journey, in to sustain my faith, I just quit my job, and do my own create my own job, do a little bit of small business, and at the same time trying to learn more about Islam. And Alhamdulillah, I'm currently I can say that I'm I'm on the right track, and my faith just gets stronger and stronger every day. And then seeing
Mm.
you guys online, especially new reverts, just go online and try to convey the message of Islam, or doing dawah to the non-Muslims. It was like, just outgrow me. I feel that my faith is getting stronger, and yeah,
Mm,
alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, that's great. I mean, when you mention Christianity, I think
Yeah,
today we live in such a world where you're exposed to every system of life,
yeah,
eventually online or anywhere. So it's
yeah.
not like 2000 years ago or somewhere where you wouldn't have to engage. Like you will be exposed to all ways of life at some point.
Mm,
So as
yeah,
parents, you have to prepare, and I think you have to teach kids about what is this, what is Hinduism, and why are you
yeah,
not Hindu, why are you not Christian, like it's
yeah.
kind of easy to explain, like you go to the church, you see the statues, and you tell them like, look, they worship the creation, we worship the
Mm-hmm.
one who created it, right? Makes sense, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
very simple. And it's not that difficult to explain why to a child maybe these things, but I think you must be learning other things as well. You can't just stick with Islam forever, in terms of just like you're hiding and you don't want to listen to other
yeah,
things, because you will be perceived as like, this guy's insecure, like he's really insecure about his own faith. um,
yeah.
but these things can create like these doubts. But that's why,
True,
I mean, every convert kind of goes through this, because they have to go through all the systems to
true.
get to Islam. So I think for converts this is quite natural, but for Muslims who are born, it's something they will eventually have to do, especially today, because internet can be stopped, and
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to hide in the box. Like you wouldn't be able to do nothing basically. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, and when you said the prayer and stuff like that, I think it's just the question, because you've mentioned the good, but
Yeah,
we don't have an understanding of what is good. Like
yeah.
let's say for an atheist, they have big problem with Jehannam or hellfire, because they think like only people who kill or rape have to go to hell. But
Mm-hmm.
those are like, let's say, external bad things, of course. But you have other level of good and bad deeds, and this has to do with worship. So if you, let's say, do shirk, which is the bigger sin than murder almost, right, in Islam,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
don't recognize this as a sin, the
yeah,
atheists, right? So they'll be
yeah.
like, why is this a sin, why is this, what is this? So the prayer and not praying is like very, if we understood the value of it, I think we would definitely pray more, or let's say we would value it more, because even myself, I sometimes am lazy, but I still, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I pray and stuff, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
sometimes realize the actual the value of it, because it's just 5 times a day. Like it's not a big problem for, like, you have eyes, you can see,
Yeah,
you have legs, you can walk, like all these things are there, they can be taken out from you every second. You don't even think about it, right? You don't think like, I can see. But if you lost your sight, you would be like, all your money you would give to just have your sight back. And
yeah,
it would completely change your perspective. And that's just one thing. But imagine how many things you have in your body that work, and you don't, you're not like paralyzed, or I don't know, you don't have these issues like other people maybe, and
mm-hmm.
we don't even think about it. And the only thing we have to do basically is these prayers.
True,
And it's
true.
just like, well, then you're kind of like arrogant. You think like, oh, I mean, I don't have to thank for this, these gifts or something. I
Mm-hmm.
did this, or it's kind of this ego thing. And so I think it's just not understanding that this prayer is like really the pillar, of your entire Islam. Like if you lose salat, you kind of lost Islam, because how
Yeah,
else are you doing there, right? Like,
yeah, true. Yeah, I get it. I get you. And
yeah.
one thing that that um, I when I'm questioning things, right? I didn't and I didn't realize that I didn't go. You know, I still believe there's God, but I don't know to
Yeah.
what extent do I um you know can understand what God is or who
Mhm.
God is, and that surprised me too when I have doubts, and I thought to myself that I I still need to believe in God, but I don't know how, or or um, the right way to, to reach God,
Yeah, that's most people like. I was stuck in this phase for a year where I realized there's a creator, but
Mm.
I was like, what does this have to do with Islam? Like, I don't see the link. Like, what?
Yeah,
There's a God, but how do I know he has a mind? How do I know what he wants? Does he even want something? Like,
yeah.
God, how do I imagine this? Like, is it just like some force? Is it just like an energy outside of the universe, or what is?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but slowly, I understood like when you check all the religions or something like that, you see this commonality with this
Yeah.
one God, and then you realize like, okay, well, there must be there's a link between the will and so it's not kind of like a random force. It has its own mind. It has its own, let's say, attributes and things like that. Even without looking at the revelation, you can deduce that like this force, for example, the design in the universe, it doesn't make sense that it's kind of random. It had to
Mm.
kind of you know had a mind on its own, because you can
Yeah,
see
yeah.
the intelligence of the design. And if you look at the physics constants in each particle and stuff like that, we can
Mm-hmm.
definitely see it in just our own bodies, in our own biology, or in the atoms and molecules, anything like that. So just looking at that, you can see like, okay, there's something weird going on. And then
It's like an order, just
yeah,
just come
order from nothing. Like, how
out of
do you
nothing.
get
Yeah,
order? What? Like, imagine explosion, but the explosion
yeah,
is like going, in nice, like it doesn't work like that
yeah,
in physics, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so you can see it like that. And then of course, but that's not enough, because Islam is not like, I think it can't be explained without the revelation. Like, you need the Quran and you need the
Yeah,
Hadith, right? So like, you
yeah.
can get to, I think you can get to an understanding that God exists and that He has like some will, without the need
Mm.
for Islam. Technically, you can do
Mm.
this through philosophy or arguments and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then you need like something, because so what? What's my point of life now? What's the purpose of life? I still don't know. I still don't know. I still don't know these answers. I just know there's God now, but like, what am I doing here? What happens when
Mm.
I die? I have no
Yeah.
answers for these things still. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when you need this like revelation, because these things are ultimately unseen, because you can only know them when you die. So like,
Yeah,
you will never, even through millions of years of science, figure this out. So you need like the message, let's say, coming from the source. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's then you look at the messages, right? So you could look at the Hindu text, you look at the Christian, and you can see the patterns. And then, I mean, for me, it was kind of like pretty clear when I looked at the Quran, and just the way it was revealed, and
yeah,
stuff like that. But of course, there's more questions then follow, but
yeah,
it just kind of made sense that, yeah.
yeah. Um, when I look back, into Islam, I'm not go into philosophy because I didn't know anything about philosophy basically because I didn't learn it in university. But
It's
then,
kind of haram. It kind
yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah, and then, but I just learned the history of the prophets and also the Sahaba,
yeah.
and I learned from the stories, and eventually that just got me on hold into what Islam is and why Islam is truth. And then when I watch on YouTube on certain da'i
Mm.
or certain brothers in Islam, conveying Islam like Muhammad Ijab, and then I I I, I clearly said that I didn't understand anything what Muhammad Ijab is saying about because I didn't understand anything about philosophy. But then I think I met Yusuf Ponders, if you know
Yeah,
him.
we did a podcast with Yusuf. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've heard his story about his coming to Islam and how he discovered it, and
Mm-hmm.
then he's doing tab with the Thought
Mm-hmm.
Adventure podcast, and I learned a little bit about what argument they brought up by doing philosophy through philosophy. So that just got me like to understand, okay, maybe Islam can be understand through logical view but in a certain way, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's tricky because what they're doing, it's not Islam really. They
Yeah,
are doing philosophy, right? So like you
yeah,
have to distinguish, because you get into these problems with within the Islamic community where they
true.
kind of attack each other for this, right? Like one
Yeah,
group says like this is haram, because you
mm,
can eventually take a lot of people out of Islam by exposing them to like Friedrich Nietzsche or Carl Jung, and these guys are crazy. Like their ideas are really can you mess you up when you read them,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
start like it's not easy ideas. These ideas are really deep, and just let's say idea of Marxism, right?
mm,
Sounds like on paper, sounds like okay, this is just an idea, but like hundreds of millions of people were dead because of this idea and because they believed it. So like it's you have to be careful. Like people naturally believe things. If you expose them long enough to something, they might start believing in some stuff, and you
yeah,
must understand that these are very dangerous things in philosophy. You can
yeah,
either get into nihilism and self-destruction, or completely different, like Marxism or other things. It's very difficult. But I think eventually today you don't. It's not possible to not be exposed to these things. So at some point you don't have to study. I think just by looking at the prophet's life, from the birth to death,
yeah,
and just learning about this is enough. Like this
yeah,
can be like okay, Islam is true, because you can see how many times they promised him, let's say, money or something, how much suffering there was in his life.
true.
Why would like just logically speaking, this, and these are authenticated hadiths about the life, so we
Yeah,
can see like okay, these were based on the real events, these battles or something. And
mm-hmm,
even outside of the miracles, like how he lived and everything like that, just that in itself can be enough without diving into
true,
anything,
true.
or looking at the composition of the Quran. I think that can be enough, or just
True.
listening to a surah.
Yeah,
So there are many ways how you can just uncloud your fitra, whatever you want to call it. And
mhm.
sometimes it's a combination with philosophy, sometimes not. But by the way, I have to leave because there's another caller, and I have like 15 minutes. So
No
is
problem,
that
Jan.
okay? Okay.
Yeah, it's
Well,
okay.
thank you so
Nice
much
talking
for,
to you.
yeah, thank you. And salam alaikum, and have a nice weekend.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All right. Salam alaikum. Nima, can you hear me?
Assalamu alaikum.
How are you?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. I hope you can hear me as well.
Yes, yes, I can hear you as well. So I saw you made
I know.
like a
Great,
comment in the
great.
chat, right?
Yeah,
Sorry, can you
I'm
hear
super
me?
anxious right now. This is like new territory for me. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So do you have any question or a comment or anything you'd like to ask or discuss? Pretty open to anything.
Yeah, sure. About the Sunni Shia thing. I don't want to start a war right now, but I personally, let's start from my background. I come from
Mhm.
Iran, and in my country, most people are Shia. I live
Yeah,
in Tehran, which is the capital of Iran. Um, and most people in Tehran, although they come from a Shia background, are usually secular. It's like Europe. Most people come from a Christian background, but they are secular. They even hate religion
yeah.
at times. Um, so I come from this secular background, and I was a non-Muslim. I converted to Islam when I was a teenager. My parents hated Islam. They didn't like Islam, mostly because of the government.
Yeah.
They hate the government. They think the government is the I don't know how to explain this, but they see the government as Islam. Uh, Everything wrong the government does is because of them being Muslim.
Mhm.
So that's where I started studying about all this stuff when I was a teenager. Um, I learned a lot of new things. For example, I know there's this story of Ottomans attacking Europe and conquering cities, forcing people to become Muslim. I don't know. I don't exactly know for sure how much of that is a reality, how much of that is myth. Do
Mhm.
you guys have these stories in Slovakia as well? How Ottomans attacked Europe?
Yeah, I mean there was a siege of Vienna, which was pretty big, like conflict of civilizations, which is right where I live next door. So that was like a giant conflict between all the armies of Europe and Ottomans. but generally speaking, most of the actually battles, like for example in Netherlands, where Protestants called the Ottomans to help them, they actually like let's say made partnership with Protestants. So like let's say they were fighting Catholics, so the Protestants would ask for help from Ottomans, and they would come together. So it wasn't like they were just coming in from like no reason, like they were always like forming alliances. Even in Bosnia, I think there was a king who didn't like the Pope, but he also didn't like the Orthodox Church, and so that's why he asked the Ottomans to help them. So like I think it's kind of complicated. I'm not an expert, so but I'm sure there was some slavery involved. I'm sure there was like killing 100%, but I'm not sure that's like the right picture of what how this history was done. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like in Iran, we have these kind of stories, but with the Arabs instead of Ottomans, instead of Turks. So basically, most people in Iran see Islam as this Arab religion that is here to destroy us, that is here to destroy the Persian and Zoroastrian culture. But when I studied it, when I kept looking at it, I found a lot of inconsistencies in their narratives, and to be honest, it's just really baffling to me how most people fall for these kind of stories, especially when they don't have any basis to them. So my introduction to Islam was from this line of reasoning. This I messed that up. Geopolitical, yes, geopolitical kind of perspective. But when I kept looking at it, at first I became Shia because most people here are Shia, and that's the only version of Islam that we know about. But when I kept looking at the Quran itself, I found out many things they teach us about Islam are actually false. For example, we hate the Sahaba in Iran. We hate the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Basically because of the second caliph attacked Iran. So we think that these people are evil people, and they are here to just the basic narrative they feed us. So it is very common in Iran for let's say Persians to curse the companions of Prophet Muhammad. So when I'm looking at the Quran, many verses in the Quran talks about how the companions are pleased with Allah and Allah is pleased with them. So that was really shocking to me at first. So I kept on reading. They believe in these 12 imams, 12 leaders who are appointed by Allah from the progeny of Prophet Muhammad from Ali alayhi salam, Ali radiallahu anha. And they basically believe these imams, they can hear them, they can help them. But if you just read Surah Fatiha, the first chapter of Quran, it talks about how we should only ask, it says, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. We should only ask help from Allah and no one else, especially in the matters of unseen. It was just baffling for me at first. I know that it might be confusing at first when you begin to look at Islam. It was genuinely confusing for me when I was a teenager, especially when I was a teenager. I didn't know what was going on in my life. So
I mean, to be honest, like
that.
for a convert,
I hope I didn't bore you, Ado.
No. I was just saying that, like, for a convert, at least anyone I know, they don't even Shia doesn't even make sense to us. Like, what? It goes directly against the main things of Tawheed and shirk and stuff. So I don't know a single convert who would, like, a European guy who would like decide to go Shia. Like, I haven't heard that. Maybe they exist, but
Definitely, and
I
they
guess
don't
it's
give
more like,
dawah to Westerners. They
yeah, I
just
think
keep
it's more like,
keep giving dawah, for example, to the Muslims themselves.
yeah. I think, yeah, I've heard some stories where there are some parades in Iran where they like they hate Omar, and they hate up, like they really do like some festivals against them or something crazy like that. I don't know, like what is the. I think there's like a historical context you have which I'm missing. So there's a reason for this, but yeah, it just outside of Iran or outside of like that region, it doesn't really make sense, because I'm looking at the source of the Quran, and let's say the authentic sources from the life of the Prophet, and I can like I can see what the message is and how it can get corrupted, and I think it's just, I don't think, I'm not making any takfir on anything like that, but I'm just thinking like what they're doing, okay, it's okay, but it doesn't make any sense to me, at least, like. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't know.
Um,
So are you
I
currently?
remember way back then I was.
Go ahead.
Sorry, there's a delay, and sometimes I cut you off. I don't mean to cut you off. I don't mean to be rude or anything. Sorry. So.
Oh, it's okay. You can continue. I have like 5 more minutes, so I'll have to go. So, yeah.
Sure, sure. So there isn't a lot of time. Any questions or you have,
So
or any
where
like
do you?
something that confuses you?
Sorry, where do you live now? Can you hear me?
Yes. Sorry. Again, there's delay. So I live in. Right now I don't want to dox myself, but I basically still live in Iran, and I hope I can someday come out of this place. But God knows what's going to happen.
Is there like free internet in Iran, or how does it work?
Yeah, basically, we have internet, but it's like China. It's not as worse as China, as bad as China. Sorry, but like many of the websites, like YouTube and many other like how to explain Telegram, Twitter, all these websites are blocked. So we use VPNs most of the time to get around these restrictions.
But can you
Most
be
people of
like
Iran basically use VPNs.
yeah? Can you be a Sunni in Iran, and is there a Sunni mosque, or like what? How does that work?
In Tehran, the government claims to they have these namaz khana. These aren't really mosques. These are places of worship, like rooms dedicated to praying. In Tehran, but in other cities like Sunni, we have some Sunni cities in Tehran. For example, Kurdistan, which the Kurds live in the west of Iran, or Baluchistan is the land of Baluch, to the east of southeast of Iran. These people are majority Sunni places in Iran, and they have their own mosques and places of worship. But again, it's really restricted, and you can't really speak about this stuff in Iran because of the government and some restrictions.
Do you think like because now I think it's called officially the Islamic Republic of Iran, right? So do you think the government is gonna change, or what's the situation in the next 10 years, like in terms of this, like I don't know, Islam or Shia or secularism? Like what's gonna happen?
What I'm seeing right now is that most of the people of Iran are becoming secular, becoming atheist, becoming anti-religion. And the government is basically failing. There are protests in south of Iran and other parts right now as we are speaking. So I don't think we are going to have the government Islamic. I quote Islamic. I don't believe they are Islamic at all. But nonetheless, I don't think they are going to last like the other 10 years or so. But at the same time, I don't really have high hopes for Iran, because if they go, if the Islamic Republic goes, then who is going to replace them? Someone worse than them? Some secular government that's backed by like European countries that is going to enforce more restrictions on religious freedom, because most people hate Islam. they are going to be persecuted even more. I don't know. I just I don't know. Allah knows best. I hope that God helps us.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy when you have a government, like you see this, like in some countries where you have a government that pushes Islam on people and they kind of hate it. I don't know, like it's. I mean, it depends on the version and this country or where it is, because sometimes it can work, I guess. But what's your opinion on this? Like, let's imagine a situation that in Iran, like massive conversions happen to Sunni and people stop being secularized. But like, would you prefer a government to be like pushing like women cover, do this, or do you think there should be some way to organize society but also have some freedom for people so that they don't become anti Islam or anti-religion, because it kind of, I don't know if you understand my point, but I'm just
I see
curious
what you mean. I really do understand what you mean. But at the same time, for example, I'm a Muslim, so basically, I would prefer Islamic country. At the same time, I see where you're coming from. I believe there should be a balance here. At the same time, I just don't know. I'm as confused as you are, because I see how people run away from religion when these stuff is forced on them. At the same time, I know that as Muslims, we should want the Islamic government for ourselves. We should rule by the Sharia, rule by the Quran and Sunnah. I know it's really hard. It's really hard for me. For example, I see the situation in Afghanistan right now, and I see Taliban forcing women to veil their faces. And I see that as really awful, because people are going to become less religious. They're going to become secular, just as the situation in Iran happened. 40 years ago, before the Islamic Republic came around, when we had a kingdom, Muhammad Reza Shah Pahlavi used to rule Iran, most people were Muslim. Most people were very religious, even though it wasn't a, let's say, Islamic government, but most people were very religious, and that was even though they were Shia. I think I personally like that more when people are religious rather than they're irreligious. So I don't know. I just I see.
By the way, I have to go, but thank you for coming in. I think the solution is that, like, focusing on like education. If you do this kind of government, you need to like explain to people all these things in Islam, and I think it takes decades. So people should should have a basic understanding of Islam from the education perspective. But anyways, I'm nobody. I don't know what's going on. So thank you so much for jumping in, and I gotta go, guys. So
sorry if I bore you.
No, it was good, Nima. Good luck to you in Iran. Assalamu alaikum, and I'll see you guys next week.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
All right, see you guys later. Bye bye.